No Tutsi or Hutu were harmed in the making of this production.
We interviewed people all around campus to see what they knew about Rwanda.
You'd be surprised by what they had to say.
Are you ready?
There's a genocide going on, and it's been going on for a few years between the Hutu and the Tutsi.
I don't know that much about Rwanda. The movie, the Hotel Rwanda, I think, the revolution.
Nothing at all?
So far that apparently there's a shitload of people dying, and from what I've known from this guy, that there's two factions or whatever, and they're just controlling everything and just fucking all the shit up. And there's a bunch of
I get quoted here like beyond belief. At least what I understand from Rwanda is usually because it's so poor, like there's no real economic infrastructure. We usually send aid over to Rwanda, usually, and because there's still like militia groups, actually like leaders who are more corrupt than others, they take some of those goods, they don't really distribute it well, and they end up selling it for money, so they either live.
There's a lot of civil wars, and there's a lot of like rape. There's a lot of people killing each other, and I think it all has to do with their government. I'm not sure.
They're part of the project too.
I'm pretty sure it has to do with like the government and like a political dispute or something like that, or maybe a corrupt politician. I'm not sure what the details are, but I know there's a lot of like turmoil and like a lot of death and a lot of sicknesses, and like I know that people, they need a lot of help, and
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
What do you know about Rwanda?
About Rwanda. The Hutus and the Tutsis had a very, I guess, serious conflict in Rwanda in which like 800,000 Hutus were killed, I think. Rwanda has always been an area of serious ethnic conflict between these two groups. It borders Burundi and Uganda, and I think it was a Portuguese, no, it wasn't a Portuguese colony, but I think like the Germans had a lot of activity there, and after World War I they had to give up some territory around there, not to the Allied powers, but shit, who was? Well, anyway.
What I know about Rwanda. Rwanda is in Africa, right? Well, Rwanda became the news in 1994, 1995, having to do with the genocide that was taking place there at the time. And what was ironic is that both the United Nations and the United States, and the EU didn't exist back then, but European nations decided to overlook that and not pay attention to people who were being slaughtered and killed, Hutus killing the Tutsis. And close to 1 million people died or were killed. About 800,000 Tutsis were killed, and 200,000 Hutus were killed. And depending on who had power at the time, or who had the machetes in their hand at the time. So it's sort of like an ethnic cleansing, but in general a genocide took place. And like I said, the UN and the US refused to call it a genocide because it would mandate them then to interfere and intervene. And they didn't want to intervene. A lot of people think that that had to do with race and racism. People thought that had these people been white, especially, the UN, United States, and also European nations would run to their aid instead of waiting around and looking the other way. So I particularly think that that's true, that it had a lot to do with racism. You can also see that not just in Rwanda, but other African nations, that Europeans, whites in general, especially those nations in power, don't like to address the problems of Africa. And just in general, addressing the 52, 53 countries that exist in Africa as Africa, not distinguishing between one or the other, Rwanda from Uganda, from Algeria, from Nigeria, from Kenya and Tanzania and so on, is a problem in itself.
I do not know anything about Rwanda.